as insurance is for the big catastrophes. Are you insuring a property correctly? Because if you're not, and a claim occurs, you could be denied coverage. It is crazy out there. And, when I first heard about everything that was happening, I'm like, it's going to be like the bird flu. It's just going to come around for a little while and it's just going to disappear.
Welcome back to I Buy Real Estate, your free step-by-step guide so you can buy real estate. Today we got special guests in the building, Garett with Robert Schaff Insurance. Garett has helped numerous people find better value for their insurance and real estate needs by sourcing over 100 companies for the best cost-effective policy for the client. Welcome, Garett.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So let's dive right in. With what is going on today with the virus, has your property insurance business been impacted?
Yes, absolutely. The biggest thing is there's no car changes. That's one of the things that we do for auto insurance is we deal with dealers and individuals that are making car changes. So currently the DMV's closed, so it makes it very difficult for people to make car changes. Some people are able to do it online or send stuff directly through mail, but that part of our business has slowed down. Also, home closings have slowed down. They are still happening, but there's a lot less than there used to be. So we have a lot less going on there. And then just in general, just a lot less calls for whatever reason, different things that we deal with.
So let's dive right in. You source over 100 companies to find the best policy for the clients. What's the difference between an independent insurance agent and a direct agent?
So a direct agent would be the captive agents, the ones that you would think of that mostly do a lot of the advertising. Just to name a couple, like Geico, Allstate, State Farm. They only represent one company. They've got a great product, great service, but they've got one pricing option for you. Where, like you mentioned, I've got over 100 companies to choose from. There's other independent agents doing similar things, but each independent agent represents different companies. So what I recommend to everyone that's out there buying insurance, any kind of insurance, you definitely need to be working with an independent agent that represents multiple companies that's going to find you the best option because each situation is different. And, we do have referral relationships with some of the direct agents because they can't write everything. So sometimes they run into a risk, a client that they just can't write, and they'll send them to us because we've got an option for everybody. And because we have so many different companies, if you look at our website, my tagline is 95% of everyone who calls us receives better rates with better coverage because of the fact we've got so many companies to choose from. We're checking all of them every time to make sure we're providing the best option for that individual client.
Right. And that's and just to put into perspective, like I do a mixture of flips and rentals, and you were saying how Allegheny gives better rates for rentals, or vice versa, Erie gives better rates for flips. So with over 100 companies to choose from, that's why you're able to get the best cost-effective policy. So talk to me about what property insurance covers and what it doesn't cover.
The biggest thing, especially with your line of business, because I know you do a lot of flips and you do some properties that you share, keep as a landlord policy. It's really important that you're insuring a property the correct way. For example, if you purchase a homeowner's insurance policy, that is only going to pay out. It's only a valid policy if you live in the home. So for example, you were to buy a property that you're planning on living in, but you never end up living. If there's a claim, the company has the right and the ability to deny all coverage. Same thing with a landlord policy. If it's going to be tenant occupied, it has to be occupied within a certain time frame. Each company is different. Most of them, it's either 30 or 60 days. If it's not occupied during that time frame and there's a claim, the company can deny coverage because that we can insure it, but it has to be insured as an unoccupied or a vacant dwelling. It's a different rate. It's a different program. Some companies don't allow it just because that's not a risk that they're looking to insure. So it's very important that, we have those specific information when we're doing a quote for somebody, making sure that they get the right coverage, the proper coverage, because there are situations that, where clients have put claims in and they've been completely denied. Just to give you an example, a property was insured as a landlord policy. They had a fire. The building burned down completely. It was over 60 days. They never occupied. It was still vacant, and the company denied all coverage. So, and the client lost everything.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now we're discussing about filing the claim of when the house goes on fire. Tell me the process of making a claim. Let's say, for example, your house burns down from natural fire. What are the next steps?
So the most important thing we tell all of our clients, give us a call first, touch base with us, because there's different situations. Every claim, every situation is different, and most of the time, if it's something significant like a fire, some significant damage, it's a catastrophe of some sort. Yes, you're going to have to end up talking to a claims adjuster with the company directly. But sometimes we have small things like maybe somebody's windstorm blew some shingles off, or a gutter fell down. And I usually recommend in those situations, well, get an estimate first, because it might be under your deductible. If it ends up being under your deductible or close to your deductible, maybe you don't want to put a claim in, because most insurance companies are perfectly fine with one claim. But if you have more than one claim within 5 years for property insurance, home, landlord, dwelling fire, those kind of policies, you have more than one claim within 5 years, most insurance companies are going to non-renew you. And we have options. Not all companies do, but we have options to maybe go to a different company, maybe change things around. But most of the time, you're going to be paying a lot more. So you don't want to necessarily call a claim in immediately. I almost always recommend get an estimate first to see what the total cost is, to see if it's something that's worth putting in, because some companies even will negatively affect you in the future with even a zero payout. For example, one of our companies, if you have a zero payout water claim within 5 years, even if nothing was paid out, you put a claim in, say some water got in your basement or a pipe leaked. If it's they just have had such bad luck with water claims, even if the company didn't pay out, they are not going to insure you. They need to be more than 5 years old for any water claims. So it's very important that you don't put a claim in before discussing it with a independent agent, whoever your agent is, us, to make sure that it's really the best thing to do for you.
Got it. So it sounds like when the damage happens, first get an actual estimate, get three estimates, and look at your options. Then once you see that your estimates is more than what the deductible is, then talk to you, and then you could give us additional options, and then you will walk through us the next necessary steps in order to start the claim. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to think about it as insurance is for the big catastrophes. Say you have wind damage destroys your roof, you have a fire. Insurance companies, their purpose there is not for like a maintenance policy. They're expecting you to provide maintenance on your own properties. And when something bad happens, something extremely catastrophic, that's when they're expecting you to put the claim in. So it's not something that you should be putting the claim in, every year. It can all depend on the situation, but because then you're going to run into those situations where you might have to pay more. They might require you to have a higher deductible. They might not offer certain coverages. So those are all things you need to be aware of before filing a claim.
So have you heard stories or seen stories where something has happened, and even though the client has paid everything's paid up to date, and the insurance didn't cover the claim? If so, is there like one that just comes to mind?
Well, I'm going to have to go back to the story I briefly mentioned earlier. The client that had bought a landlord policy, never occupied it. It had been more than 60 days and this is something that, the insurance policies, when you get a policy, they're typically somewhere between 80 to 150 pages. I don't know anybody, even myself, that has read an entire policy from word to word, because it's just a whole book. So there's things that you need to be aware of. And that's one of the most important things is, are you insuring a property correctly? Because if you're not, and a claim occurs, you could be denied coverage. So that's the biggest one. The best story, the unfortunate story, was the fact where that client that had bought the insurance policy was paying for it, but filed a claim, no coverage, and they didn't realize that they had to have it occupied for the coverage to be effective. Other situations where it's important to note, if a property is sold, even between family members, it needs to be changed. The insurance has to match whatever the deed is, because that's the only person that can get paid out. For a new property, when people are trying to ask for a binder paid receipt showing coverage that they have, which is required by banks, if they haven't actually purchased the property, if they haven't closed yet, there is no coverage. So you could be paying for something that you don't have coverage if there's a claim. So it only is an insurance policy for the owner of the property. So you can buy insurance on anything, but if you don't own that property, the insurance company is not going to pay you.
Got it. So it sounds like if that lady has told the agent that she wants to insure it as a vacant property, then the insurance would have fulfilled that claim. Does that sound right?
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. Okay. Now, I have personally heard of stories of insurance fraud. I'm sure you probably have too. What I mean by this is I have heard someone deliberately set his house on fire, burning it down to claim that insurance money. Do you ever hear about this? And what do you guys do to prevent or find out it was fraud?
So whenever a claim is filed, the insurance company typically they send out a claims adjuster, either a third party or an in-house claims adjuster that will take a look at the property, determine the cause of loss, determine what the damages are. And then based on that, they will then say, all right, this is what we feel it's going to cost to rebuild, fix, whatever. While I'm talking about it, I got to mention, it's very important that you don't just accept that payment immediately, because sometimes you might run into the situation where it's going to cost more to fix it than what the insurance company initially is going to pay you. So you want to make sure whoever's going to do the work has given you their final quote, and the company either pays that person directly, or you make sure you have the exact number so that you get enough money to pay for it. To jump back to your question, in terms of insurance fraud, we try to educate people on what their coverage is for, and if they're not putting the claim in correctly, or then it could be denied. For example, one of our clients put a claim in for hearing aids. So they had a separate policy for their hearing aids, $3,000. Well, this policy covers mysterious disappearance, and this client calls multiple times, and we're like, all right, it's disappeared. Well, then she calls, well, what if it does disappear? So, and then, a couple of days later, they've disappeared. So the question is, what was actually going on there? We advised the company that we believe there might be insurance fraud, and then they're going to do their investigation. If it's worth it to them, then they're going to go ahead. If it's a big claim, like a fire, like you mentioned, absolutely. They're going to go after that individual. They're going to try to get the money, not pay it because it's fraud. And then, in different situations, that person might go to jail. Our particular situation for our client, they just decided to, it's minimal. They're just going to let it go. Maybe there's some fraud there, but $3,000 isn't that big of a deal when you're looking at the cost to hire an attorney, to go to court and try to determine the actual, was there actual fraud there.
Wow, that is crazy. We're talking on the case of fraud now. Why should someone consider an umbrella policy?
Everyone should have an umbrella policy. People typically think, the more money you have, the more you have to protect. But the biggest thing that most people aren't aware of, and the reason why everyone should purchase a personal umbrella policy, if you own properties in a business name, then you need to have a commercial insurance policy. You should consider it with the fact because the umbrella policy is going to give you additional liability on top of whatever liability the policy already has. So typically, homeowners, landlord, dwelling fire policies are going to have $300,000. Base policy automatically start with $100,000. We recommend usually at least $300,000 because if you don't have $300,000, you're not eligible for an umbrella. So we recommend everybody has at least $300,000, and then on top of that, you can purchase an umbrella, $1 million. Some companies up all the way up to $10 million of additional coverage in the event somebody gets injured on the property, near the property, anything related to the property, and sues the property owner for any reason.
Okay, now it might have sounded like simple to you, but like for everyone else, let's just give examples. So you got like 123 Main Street, 124 Main Street, like 125 Main Street. You have they're owned by different LLCs. Tell me more and describe how they're ranked.
To give you an example, and that's something, we talked about sharing things. I've got some really good examples of potential umbrella claims. I don't know if there's a way to share documents. We can add it to here somehow. I'm happy to share some examples. And that's something that I try to do with our clients when we issue a new policy. Here are some things you should consider, be aware of when you're thinking of liability. So, for example, I'm right here on Central Avenue, Lancaster. If somebody comes into our building to get insurance and they trip on the doorway and they break their hip, break their leg, something significant where they then need medical hospital treatment for a long time. We have, say, if we only had 100,000, 300,000 liability, it's going to pay for all their expenses. But then they're unable to work and their life has been changed so drastically. Maybe they injured their face and they've got medical issues. Now they can go, there's plenty of companies out there. You can, if you listen to advertisements, 888, dial 8, dial 4, they're looking for people to file a claim, and they could be awarded millions of dollars. If you don't have the right amount of coverage, then they can go after, if it's a business, they can go after the business assets, including the building itself, and that in a judgment that could be awarded, you're required to sell and pay out part of that. And they can also, more importantly for individuals, they can go after your future wages. So they can garnish your wages for the rest of your life. And even if you don't have much now, maybe you will in the future, but think about child support for the rest of your life. They could take 17% of your salary off, and you're going to have to pay that out every paycheck to pay for those damages that you caused. Having that umbrella policy gives you additional liability to protect you in the event there's a lawsuit and they try to go after awards for judgments.
Now, for my properties, just to show you how little knowledge I know of this, my properties have umbrella policy, correct?
Currently, I think most of your properties are like 300,000 of liability. Depending on the company, some of them will offer up to 500 or $1 million. But in general, if it's owned under an individual name, then you can cover it under personal umbrella, which is a completely separate policy. With, I believe, most of your properties, you own them under LLC names, which you would have to have a commercial umbrella, which I don't believe you currently have. Something that we could definitely quote. Just to kind of give you an idea, a personal umbrella, home, auto, if you have rental properties, depending on the situation personally, usually start around $150, $200 a year for that additional $1 million of coverage. When you go commercial, it's a little more complicated. It depends on the details. Sometimes 500, maybe $1 million, $1,000 to give you an additional $1 million of liability. So those are all things that definitely to consider, and we could talk about at a later date as well.
Got it. Now, I don't know if this is a factor, so I want to get your expertise, advice on this. So most of my properties are leveraged 80% LTV through the banks. Now, let's say someone trips and falls, and their attorney sees that the property is being leveraged 80% and there's only 20% equity. Does that mean that I don't need insurance, or I need less insurance? Tell us more about that.
Okay, so two different aspects that you got to think about. So the equity is the structure, the building. So say you own a property, it's $100,000. You say you own 80%. So the bank owns 80%, you own 20%, you're paying that mortgage off. What's going to happen in the event of a claim? If there's a fire, what's going to happen is the bank's going to be paid first, and then the remaining amount will go to you. That's why it's very important they require to be listed as a mortgagee. If they're not listed on there for whatever reason, they're not going to get paid anything. So that's why it's very important that they are listed on there properly. It's a little bit different if, say, somebody trips and falls. That's not going towards the property directly. What's going to happen is the liability portion of your policy is typically $300,000. That's going to be paid towards the injuries. And then on top of that, if you have an umbrella, or if it exceeds that, then you can go after individually. But the mortgagee really can't be sued for an individual getting injured on the property. It's really, they're protecting the building itself. So most mortgage companies don't even care if you carry liability insurance. We can write policies with just building coverage, but that's not something we typically do because you want liability coverage in case somebody gets injured, and it's usually the cheaper portion of the premium anyways.
So now that we got all the insurance 101, property insurance out of the way, talk to us about your website. It looks very user friendly. How can clients who wants to sign up get a hold of you? Walk us through your website.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you can see the tagline right on the top. There's information about us. You can read about our history and everything. Most important thing, got our phone number on there, request a quote. You might, when you're shopping insurance, you might see different companies that give you the option to do quotes online. I've thought about doing that, but it just doesn't make sense because everyone's situation is different. There's so many different variables. What I tell people, give us a call. We're going to find the best option that we can provide for you. Most of the time, it's going to be better than what you have now because we have so many companies to choose from. But if it's not, we're going to tell you, this is the best we can do. Unfortunately, we can't do anything better for you now. But insurance companies change rates all the time. Eventually, we will be a better option than whatever you have now. So keep us in mind. So there's a link right here. You can request a quote. Due to the current virus and everything, our office is open 9 to Monday through Friday. We are an essential business, so because of that, I'm in the office right now, but I'm working from home partly, kind of going back and forth just to check mail, take care of a few things here. But everything, you can see I put our hours on here, 24/7 virtually. Our office is close to the public. We don't want people coming in. We don't want the spread of the virus. And then everything else, you just kind of scroll through. You can take a look at it. We do everything, anything insurance. Auto, home, business, life, health, you name it. We do pet insurance. We do employee benefits. Really, the only thing that we don't do is Medicare, and we can refer that out just because it's not something we wanted to get involved with. But pretty much anything you can think of insurance, we have options for you.
Love it, love it. Now, I know you're locally here in Buffalo, New York. Are you guys, can you guys insure nationwide? Is that something you guys could do?
So our office, we are only licensed in New York State. There are other offices that do other states, but yes, we're right here in Lancaster, 20 minutes outside of Buffalo. We have clients. Majority of our clients are, within Erie County, but we do have a lot of clients that in other counties, surrounding counties, and then also, we've got clients that are from different areas for whatever reason. We've got them here. They moved out of the area. As long as they're in New York State, anywhere in New York State, we can write the insurance for somebody.
Cool. So I didn't want to forget, tell us about this referral program, because I might just start referring everybody to you now.
And that's, one of the things that I'm really trying to stress to our clients, and I did a video the other day, is when you're home, when you're doing Zoom calls with your friends, family, if you're doing different FaceTime videos, whatever, keep us in mind because we're going to give a gift card for a referral. You don't even have to be a client of ours because we're regulated by the New York State that if we're going to offer any kind of incentive program, we have to offer it to everybody. So the way that it works is if we get enough information to provide somebody a quote, we're going to send you a $15 gift card. Check out our website, our Facebook page. You'll see just recently, every quarter, we're going to give a $200 gift card to one of those individuals as well. So just give them our information, let us give them a chance. And then, if we write it or not, it doesn't matter as long as they let us provide them a quote. And if we write it, great. If we don't, then that's fine too. You're still going to get a gift card.
All right. So I want to talk about my experience. So personally, myself, I have shopped around at least 3 different insurance brokers and agencies. Garett is by far the most cost effective. So I've been working with you for 3 years now, and we've been over 100 policies. So everything's been going great. Definitely refer Garett. Check him out. I'll also post a link below to get quotes, and also the link here to refer your friends. So Garett, love it. before we end it, Garett, do you got any advice or any words of encouragement for all the viewers out there in these uncertain times?
It is crazy out there. And, when I first heard about everything that was happening, I'm like, it's going to be like the bird flu. It's just going to come around for a little while and it's just going to disappear. And then as it kept getting worse and worse, then it got closer, and then now it's right in our neighborhood. And I hope it doesn't last too much longer. We're here for individuals. We're doing our part. I've got limited employees here in the office, and we got people working from home when they can. And it's something that we gotta ride it out. Hopefully, everyone is safe, doing okay, keeping their social distance. Got options with in case you're not aware, in New York State, the governor has ordered all insurance companies to allow up to 60 days deferment of payment. So anybody that is struggling, not sure if they're able to pay their bill, the insurance companies are required to offer up to 60 days. You don't have to pay anything and no late fees. They're not going to cancel your insurance. You will eventually have to pay that, and they'll build that into future bills. And if this ends up lasting longer, then they'll extend that. But it's something that everybody needs to be aware of. It's something that we're reaching out to our clients, making sure they're aware of the fact that if you're having trouble, you're not required to pay your insurance right now. You can defer it. And then what's going to happen is eventually you'll have to pay it. And then the same thing with life insurance too. They're giving up to 90 days for life insurance. So there's options out there for individuals. It's a situation where every situation's different. So most of the insurance companies are telling us to tell our clients to contact them directly so they can set something up in their billing, so their program, so that they can do that. Some of our companies have also started to announce that they're going to be giving some money back for the people that are not driving very much. So different companies are coming out with, just giving some money back. And it's not a ton of money. They're saying 10, 15, 20% of whatever that is. Ends up usually being somewhere between $20 to $50 maybe per car. But it's ways that insurance companies, there's less risk out there because for auto insurance, people aren't driving as much. And hopefully it'll help our environment too. We have less carbon monoxide, and hopefully there's some good out of everything that's happening right now.
Definitely. You can always find positive about everything. Really quick, I know you mentioned the deferment. As far as you know, is this for all insurance brokers? Because I know for mortgage companies, some mortgages don't offer the 90 days. Most mortgages do. As far as you know, is that the case with all insurance?
I would say not. It's not 100%. So, for example, there are different policies out there that they're not offering that. Pretty much all personal insurance, auto, home, and then most business insurance. But I believe that there are some business insurances that are maybe written through a company, because we've got hundreds of companies that we broker through different policies for people that have very unique situations. They own some kind of operation. I'm working on a quote for someone that they actually sell the semen for horses to breed horses for racing. And, that company, that's very unique situation for that, that company is a company that might be based out of London, like Lloyd's of London. So there's companies that we write with that are not just New York based, and depending on the kind of policy it is, they not 100% are required to, but I would say maybe 90% of all companies are offering that. So it's very important that if you're having trouble, contact your agent or contact the company directly to talk about what options you might have.
There we go. Great advice. Way to end it. If you were entertained or got value, click the like button and subscribe for more content. If you got any questions to ask Garett, make sure to comment below and share to help others just like yourself. Garett, thank you so much. I'll see you again.
All right. Thanks a lot.